so we're going to hit the ground running. So at this point I've animated my thing, my words, I've done all my Cinema 4D stuff, rendered all that good stuff out, and it is time to move into After Effects. So I'm going to jump into my folder, and I think just in textures, I'm going to, well actually first I should open up my reference so that we can see what my mission is for today. Cool. That's what we wanted. So I've got my words, and I know that I'm going to need to add a black background in After Effects, which is pretty straightforward. And then next to that, I want to add in some of these little particle splotches, or whatever this stuff is. Get that fading on and then fading off probably. So that shouldn't be too difficult. I would normally probably jump into Photoshop and grab some sort of brush or something. Don't mind me while I kill fireworks. So I would usually grab some sort of brush and turn up the scatter or whatever to get some of this stuff in. But just for the sake of expediency, I googled some sort of like particle splatter texture, and something like this I think is pretty close, and I can just mask out the pieces that I need. Which isn't much, you know, there's just a very tiny amount of stuff going on the sides here. So I'm just going to open this up and save it into my folder. So I'm just going to put this in textures, splatter texture. Cool. Alright, so I will jump into After Effects. I've done nothing in here yet. So let's first import my rendered sequence. So rendered sequence. Interesting. Maybe I have not rendered it. Maybe I set it up and then didn't actually render it. Interesting. Alright, so that's the folder that it should be going in. Assignment 2, render sequence. Interesting. Okay, maybe I haven't rendered this. So I'm going to click render, and then, oh, this is going to go pretty quick, I think. Maybe not. Let's see. The words down here aren't going on. Okay, I'm going to pause the recording. Alrighty, we're just going to pick up where we left off. So my animation method for animating in the letters doesn't appear to be cooperating, so we're just going to fall back to plan B. No big deal. We're just going to move onwards and upwards. Close that out. So we need to import our sequence. So I've made it to my folder, my render folder. I want to click the first frame of my render, make sure sequence is checked on, and I can hit import. We're going to get a new pop-up that we have not encountered before. So if you were rendering with an alpha channel, which most of you were, if not all of you, the way that I was, you will probably want to leave it on this middle setting, which is straight, unmatted. And then we can hit OK. And the little thumbnail looks pretty similar to what we're expecting it to look like. So we can just drag that down onto the new composition button that we are friends with. And so we can see the little animations doing what I was expecting it to do, barring the little fading in letter part. So we're just going to move on past that. Now one thing to note is that After Effects is showing us having a black background, much like the way that Cinema 4D was, and the reason for that is, that doesn't want to work. The reason for that is because we have not told our background to have a specific color, and we can check that we are looking at an image that has an alpha channel, which is what that pop-up, that straight unmatted pop-up was. by clicking this toggle transparency grid button. Now this isn't a super important button to really know what it's doing, but we can see, much like in Photoshop when you're working with masks or an alpha channel, you've got this checkered background dealio going on back here. So this is telling us that we indeed have an alpha channel. So where's this black coming from, you might ask? The answer to that can be found under composition settings. So this background color right here is where our black is coming from. So if you have a different color in mind, like maybe red or some sort of gray or whatever, you can change that background color button right there. Or you can do what I would do, or what I'm going to do, and that is add some sort of background object or an image or whatever, at least for my scene, because I want to replicate this splatter dealio. So how would I do that? First I need to import that texture that I just saved, this one over here. So this is just a JPEG, it doesn't have any sort of fanciness going on when you import it. So what I'm going to do with this one is I'm going to drag this down into my timeline, but I want to drag it below my render of my word alien. So now this doesn't look exactly like what I want it to look like yet, but that's fine. You know, just like with anything in Photoshop, you've got to do a little bit of editing to get stuff the way that you want it. Now my image is a lot bigger than my visible canvas. We can see this bounding box, this lavender color is a lot bigger, so I'm just going to scale that down a little bit, something like that, just because I want this to be a little bit finer, finer grained than what I think it is currently looking like. So now obviously it is a far cry from where I want it to be, so what am I gonna do? That is a good question. So I think first off I want to color pick, or I want to get this sort of green color that I would want to be working with, and because of my memory skills, I know that the RGB values for that are 8, 104, 83. So what I'm doing is I just I hit the shortcut key, which I should elaborate on what that is. That is Control Y. You can also find that under Layer, New, Solid. Control Y right here. So that just made a awesome deep cyan solid number 1 layer, very aptly named. So what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to use my blending modes, a lot like we know in Photoshop, to use this white and black checkered layer to kind of influence this green layer. But first what I need to do is, for whatever reason, the modes, which are my blending modes right here, were hidden, and I unhid that by right clicking right here, columns, modes. So this blending mode right here, we've got a normal blending mode, so I'm just gonna use the Shift = key to scroll through these until I get something that I think is going to look like what I want it to look like, or at least get close enough. So something like this is pretty close to what I was looking for. So this is just a super quick way to use assets from the web to help me out. You know, you've got the internet as a resource, so put it to use if you can. Now obviously my source image doesn't have this splotchy splatter over the whole thing. It's really only in a very small select amount of the frame. So what I want to do with that is I want to mask my splatter layer, actually, I believe. So if I just turn the eyeball off on that, I know that around somewhere here, so I'm just using the pen tool, and I'm going to draw a shape sort of over here around the N letter somewhere. I'm just kind of roughing in ideas. Actually I was off, so this would be a little bit over here actually. There's some between the A and the L. Now I'm not trying to make this, super duper perfect, but close enough is good enough in my book. So this is just the good old pen tool that we know and love. Anywhere else? Some stuff down here and over there. So the reason I just turned the eyeballs off on that and then I drew the masks was so that way none of this stuff was in the way. Now, actually, I think I wanted to draw the masks on the other layer. I wanted to draw them on this layer. So what I'm going to do is select all these and do a cut and paste, which is Control X, Control V. That was not it either. Interesting. The wonders of doing stuff live. I think you're onto something. Oh, I know what's going on. Because these layers are actually different sized, this is a complete, not the right way to do this. So what I need to do now is in here, I want to draw these masks. That's it. So if you don't really know After Effects, if your setup's not as complicated as mine, go ahead and ignore. Actually, I need to put them back and then do it the other way around. Yes, if you are just doing something that's less complicated, just feel free to scrub forward on the YouTube video. Don't mind me. We will figure this out shortly. Nope. Sometimes working with masks in After Effects is kind of like puzzle work. There we go. That was a little bit more what I wanted. Right, so not an After Effects class. Not gonna try to bog you guys down too much with what I just did, but instead of using a blending mode, I used a track matte mode, which that will become clear what that is someday, if you have not taken an After Effects course yet. So I'm just going to edit these masks to kind of reduce the amount of how much this green speckling I've got. I've just got a little bit too much in some of these places. Just want to kind of tone this down a little bit. There's like a really sweet Shutterstock watermark visible. So this would not be going in my portfolio. Don't want to make that mistake. You do not want to be caught plagiarizing. That is a bad, bad, bad. Very, very bad. Let's try to finish this up. So it's not evident what I'm doing just yet, but it will be now. I'm going to call that close enough to what I need to be doing. So I can hit 0 on my number pad and I can RAM preview this. Sweet. Cool. So now I want to make one more black solid, and I'm going to name this layer fade in/out. And because my title sequence fades in from black and fades out to black, or at least I say they are going to, I'm going to set some keyframes on my opacity value. And so I found opacity by hitting T on my keyboard, or by opening up all these settings and going down to opacity. So I think we very super duper briefly went over keyframing in After Effects, but just as a super quick refresher, if this is pertinent to you. So I want mine to fade in from black, so that means that I need this layer to start at 100% opacity. So I'm going to click this little stopwatch. This is kind of our C4D, Cinema 4D equivalent of clicking the little red dot. Clicking one of these red dots that we know. So here's my first keyframe. So I'm going to slide part the way through 1 second, and bring that back down to 0. So that means that it will start at black and fade in. So what I'm doing is I'm making the opacity of this black layer, which is sitting on top of everything else. I'm just controlling this layer's opacity. So now to fade back out to black, I want to set another keyframe over here at 0, and then scrub to the end of my video and bring this value back up to 100. I'm just going to alter that a little bit longer, just artistically. And then I can hit 0 on my keyboard. And this opening fade in is a little too quick. Realistically, this should probably be like 10 seconds long with like a 3 or 4 second fade in each direction, but mine's 5 seconds long with a 1 second fade, but you know, whatever. That's just video stuff. Cool, I'm going to call that done. So now that I've actually done some stuff in After Effects, I want to save this After Effects project, which is something kind of new to us as a class. So we can just find that under the good old file save. And I'm going to navigate to my folder, and this will be assignment 2 chicken. Cool, that's all saved, and now to save this out as a movie file and turn it in, I will go add to render queue, and this is where our settings are. So I'm going to change my format to QuickTime, change my format options to H.264. Hit OK. Hit OK down there. And then I'm going to tell my file where to save, and this is good for a name. I can click save, and then I can click the cool blue render button, and we should be done. Yeah, that chime is always fun. So now I need to copy this. So this is my turn-in file, and I need to go to the server, go to assignment 2 turn-in, and paste this in here. And I need to make sure that I paste this in before Thursday at the end of class so that it's in on time, and that's that. There's the title sequence.